Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into Wowhead Weekly number 46. Of course, with the big announcement at Gamescom this week, we have so much to talk about, but it's not just about Legion. I mean, you think it's just about Legion, but it's where there's other stuff too. So before we get into all of that, let me introduce my lovely co-host, Wowhead site manager, Perculia.
Hey everyone, it feels like it was just yesterday since we were here, and it actually was because we had our reaction stream, and that was awesome. We had so many people show up, so thanks all of you for watching us be very excited about the Legion announcement.
Well, it was very exciting.
Yeah, but there's so much, we're going to talk about Legion as well, but we have a ton of other Gamescom news, and even things on live servers to get into, so we should start talking about Gamescom a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it. So we have tons of stuff to talk about today. Of course, just to talk a little bit about Gamescom before getting into the actual information, Gamescom is this year, August 6th through 9th. So today's the 8th, right? 7th? Today's the 7th, so there's still two more days.
Yeah, today's the 7th.
Yeah, so
yes, it's Saturday and Sunday.
Yep, there's still 2 more days, and it's honestly, it's basically like a European BlizzCon. I hear there's other games there, but I don't know, I just don't see them. We're getting all sorts of like slideshows and stuff from European fan sites, which is super cool because, I mean, we see BlizzCon and we see like the little things that go on in Comic-Con and PAX, but we don't see too much of what goes on over there, huh?
Yeah, so, yeah, it's nice that there's been an increased presence this year because I think a lot of people didn't realize that, you know, Gamescom was big and there was the dance contest and the costume contest.
Yeah.
And all these things, so we've been trying to, you know, raise more awareness of it, that there's the expansion announcement, but there's also a bunch of other cool things that just happen every year.
Yeah.
You know, there's like dungeon races, raid races, all that good stuff.
Yep, and they've got all sorts of cool stuff. Like, when you go to BlizzCon every year, they have all sorts of huge statues and stuff like that. And at Gamescom, Blizzard brought Overwatch statues, a big Garrosh statue, a giant Hearthstone card, a giant StarCraft 2 pylon. So they really did the place up. They've also got a bunch of Warcraft movie props on display, which is really, really cool. And there's a whole schedule of things they're doing. You want to talk about it, Berg?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously yesterday, we had the World of Warcraft expansion announced, and then today at 18 Central European time, so that's 9 a.m. Pacific, you can do the math from there, there was a Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm content and developer interviews. And then tomorrow we're going to have another live stream with Legacy of the Void and Overwatch content and interviews. And then finally on Sunday, we're going to get another panel on exclusive World of Warcraft content and more developer interviews, which I'm very excited about because I just thought the Thursday presentation was going to be very small, but they pretty much said a bunch of things I thought were going to be in the panel as the more in-depth thing, and now I'm like, what's the panel going to have if they were so in-depth on just the basic announcement?
Yeah, I totally agree. I was expecting like a 15-minute, like, oh, here's the name of the announcement, and there's a new class, but we're not going to tell you what the new class is, and instead we got a full-fledged BlizzCon-style announcement. I mean, it was a huge presentation. It was like an hour and 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it was longer than a usual presentation.
Yeah, it was really long, and then on top of it, they've still got stuff going on, like you said, with Overwatch, and they're going to reveal more about Hearthstone, so it's really like a ton of information. I hope they leave some for BlizzCon. I hope they leave some for BlizzCon.
I'm sure they will. I mean, we haven't actually seen any of the other classes, and as we learned from some interviews today, other classes are getting some pretty big changes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Overwatch first, because we have a lot to talk about with BlizzCon, or BlizzCon, with World of Warcraft, so we'll leave that till the end, but we did get some new Overwatch stuff. Now, it's weird, because Overwatch is showing up in the launcher now, but no install button, no beta, nothing, not yet. It's just a hype train, which is working because I'm hype as heck. They did introduce...
Yeah, if you don't have Overwatch checked in the beta settings, you still see the button show up. So it's you know, it's advertising, it's very cool advertising, but yeah.
When I saw it, when I logged in and saw the button there, I like had a minor heart attack. I'm like, it's here! It's here! But it wasn't here. It was really disappointing. Well, it's not disappointing. It's actually really exciting because it's almost here, exactly. The framework is getting there. And the dev who did that, who installed that in our launchers, was so funny on Twitter. Like, he was just like, oh, that's a nice button in your launcher, isn't it? Like, giggles innocently. So it was really cute.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they announced a new hero. His name is Lucio, and he's kind of like a bard. He's a musician, and his lore is that he stole Sonic technology to lead a riot, which is really cool.
Yeah, like in his city, basically, he grew up in this sort of rundown area of the city, and he became a musician to make others happy, and he became a pretty successful street musician, and then this evil corporation was trying to sort of ruin his neighborhood more, so he led the revolt against them, and now he's this even more famous and successful international musician.
Oh, that's super cool. I didn't realize he had that in depth of a story because I've been just so tied up in Legion hype. But he looks super cool. He's on like rollerblades, and all of his abilities are very supporty, and he's very much like a bard, but it's not a bard in the sense of he has like a harp or a flute or something. Like it's all like DJ, like electronic EDM, like drop the bass kind of stuff. It's really neat.
Yeah, and they had 2 sample tracks because the idea was that he was doing this international contest in the city that Gamescom is held in, and he had 2 teaser songs, and he was going to give like the first concert at Gamescom, so you can hear it. You can hear his music and get a sense for more of his style and personality. I thought that was a cool lead up. It's not just everyone is very like muscular and athletic and is in Overwatch because they're, they have all this combat prowess. It's like, this is a cool musician who sort of inspires others to do things.
Yeah, he's really, really cool. And they also announced 2 new maps. And all of the maps in Overwatch are based on real-life places. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but it's a thing, and it's pretty cool. And the new maps are Numbani, which is like a luxury African city that's right on like the edge of the African savannah. It's really cool. And then that's a payload map, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then the other one is a point capture map, which is called Volsyaka, and it is a Russian factory. So pretty neat. Did I say that wrong? Is that what I tried?
I think it was fine. I'm sure lots of
Volskaya.
Yeah.
Volskaya. I tried. But they both look super cool, and if you go to the Overwatch YouTube page, they have previews of both of the maps, and the way that they're previewed is almost like a fly-through so that you can see the whole cities. Yeah. And what I really like about all the Overwatch maps is they totally, like, the whole plot of Overwatch is that there was this big catastrophic event, and the world is essentially trying to recover from it. So you see all these cities, and it's very, like, you could tell people live there, and it's really...
It's very evocative. I really like Numbani because there's a museum, and there was flowers outside the museum.
Yeah.
And they had different monuments, and it was nice to see a city that was flourishing that didn't look destroyed or bombed out, or it looked very sort of healthy and prospering, and that was cool.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. And there was also I couldn't find any pictures of their cosplay at Gamescom, but I'm sure they'll pop up over the weekend. Yeah. But there were a couple BlizzCon costume contest winners who actually were hired by Blizzard to cosplay at Gamescom. Lightning cosplay and Kumayo. Oh my god, these names. I'm so bad at this. Kamui. How do you...
Yeah, I think it's Kamui. Kamui? I
tried. But they both cosplayed as Overwatch characters. One of them did is she called the Black Widow? Is that her name? The Widowmaker?
Widowmaker, yeah.
And then the other one did the really futuristic girl with the gun whose name is escaping. Symmetra. And they both cosplayed as those, which are really intricate characters, so I'm sure once their full photo shoots come out and everything, they're going to be amazing. I know that Kamui, on her Twitter, she actually did like some close-up shots of the gun that she made. It was really, really neat. So the hype for Overwatch is super real. I'm really, really excited about it. I want to play the chick with the big arms because I saw some gameplay footage of her, and she's just so incredibly overpowered.
Yeah, and she has pink hair.
Yeah, exactly. She's my
Forget
people.
the arms. She has pink hair.
Thanks.
Yeah.
She has this one move though that's so cool because she like throws this like gravity bomb kind of, and it sucks everybody into a ball, and then she throws something else and just one shots everybody in the ball. I want to do that. I'm in. Triple kill. Yeah. Also at Gamescom, we found out some new stuff about the upcoming Hearthstone expansion. Lots of new Grand Tournament cards were revealed, and they talked about improving the ranked play system, correct?
Yeah, that was pretty cool because basically, if you get your card back if you hit level 20 each month, but the idea is that now you can get a higher rank. If you get a higher rank, you get more rewards, so you feel inspired to keep going. It's not like, oh, I got my card back and I'm never going to get Legends, so I'll just call it quits. It's like, well, if I get a higher rank, I can get more, dust and cards and gold, stuff like that. So that's a pretty welcome change. I think it will help a lot of people that always get their card back but aren't, an amazing player. It will sort of entice them to play more and to get a rank and to get their rewards at the end. So that was pretty cool. And we also learned about the Joust mechanic, which sounds really fun and lighthearted, where they reveal cards and whoever has the most costly cards wins the Joust.
Yeah, and it's back to the ranked play. I once again I was muted and talking, but like you said, there wasn't really much incentive to play ranked, especially if you were a middle of the road player, somebody who's maybe ranked 15, ranked 12, stuff like that, because the only rewards were at level 20 and level 1.
Yeah, that's a big gap.
That's a big gap. That's really difficult. So I am guilty of being one of those players who just kind of like would play ranked to get level 20, and then I would just play like to get gold to play arena and stuff, but it was very casual and I put no stock into really leveling up. I think the highest I've ever gotten was like 10 or 11. I'm not very good at Hearthstone. I wish I was, but it's too much of a strategy game for my brain. But what I am good at is Heroes of the Storm. That's right. And at Gamescom we also got some Heroes of the Storm announcements. They did so many announcements, like crazy, but they announced new heroes. Rexxar, who is of course the hunter from World of Warcraft with the bear pet Misha. Arthas, I wish. Artanis. He's already in the game, but Artanis is from StarCraft. Is he a Protoss?
Yeah, he's the leader of the Protoss, and they were talking about him with the StarCraft 2 presentation that was going on as well, or will be going on.
Yeah, will be going on. And then Kharazim, who is the Diablo monk. So that's pretty cool. I'm super excited to play Rexxar. Really, really excited to play Rexxar.
Yeah, I think that it makes sense now because the Heroes of the Storm homepage leading up to Gamescom had these claw slashes on the side of it. So you had the Eternal Conflict Diablo stuff in the center, but you had these slashes which didn't totally fit. So now it makes sense because, you know, it's Rexxar's bear Misha that is clawing at stuff, and with the hero's concept, the bear does a lot of damage and attacking, so it makes sense that the bear is sort of clawing at the front of the website.
Yeah, and so, like you said,
that's a cool detail.
It is a cool I'm just excited for Rexxar in general because he's such a cool lore character to begin with, and Misha's awesome, and I think it's cute that, like you said, they integrated her into the page. But like you said, they did also announce the new Battleground Infernal Shrines. That's based on Diablo, right?
Yeah, and it has some neat Diablo touches, like there are shrines and they get charged up, and there are punishers that can spawn, and they have the different sort of affixes that you see in Diablo, like, arcane, stuff like that. So yeah, it has some flavor just like actual Diablo 3, and something I thought was pretty neat was that in the press kit, the pictures they showed were the heaven versus hell, eternal
conflict
aspects of the same area, so you could actually be like, oh, this is like the heaven portal, and this is the hell portal, and this is what a heaven statue looks like versus the hell one. So it was neat to see them side by side.
Well, already they have the Eternal Conflict in map, and they've done so many just little nuances that are very Diablo-like. Like at the end of the game, when you win, it like explodes loot like the exact same way it does in Diablo. It's just like a really clever little thing. And then also at Gamescom, they announced that we were going to get a good treasure goblin mount, which I
know,
it's just ridiculous. And then there are also some new skins coming, like one of the more anticipated ones is Earthbreaker Thrall. So lots to look forward to in Heroes of the Storm. That's a super fun game. If anybody is out there is wanting to try it, but they haven't tried a MOBA, so it's like intimidating, it's really intuitive and it's really easy to pick up. There's also quite a lot of like stuff you can do against the computer, whether it's you and computer against computer, or you and a bunch of other people against the computer. So you don't have to be like too intimidated where you have to go in and just play against people and get rocked. It'll be okay, I promise.
Yeah. So we're almost getting to the Legion news. We have some new Blizzard swag that's at Gamescom, and some of this is new Warcraft merchandise.
Yeah.
So there's a new cool looking Overwatch wallet that it's black and it's got the Overwatch logo on the front. There are these Alliance and Horde bracelets, and they look pretty cool. They're more delicate than the ones that were came out last year.
Yeah, they're the ones with the little like leather straps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
and
really
they've got the medallion.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a Hearthstone Compass t-shirt that's navy blue and light blue. And finally, there are Alliance and Horde Crest t-shirts, and they're gray, and they've got all the different races in black on the side, and you've got this Alliance and Horde logo in the center. And they look really cool. The Gamescom host was wearing it, and I thought it was just a really cool shirt.
I love her. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like Tracer come to life.
She was amazing. Like I was kind of live tweeting while they were doing the announcement. Every time she'd talk, I'd be like, "Yes, Tracer, I'm so excited." She was adorable. I hope she's going to be at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Creepily fangirl. I love you. There was also stuff at Gamescom that has been at other conventions as well, because Blizzard has a whole line of like convention exclusives, like the Murloc backpack. It's like a cute but deadly thing. Then there's also the Stitches plush, which comes with the Bikini Stitches skin for Heroes of the Storm, and the Demonic Tyrael Funko Pop.
Yeah.
And
so
here it is.
Yeah,
here it is, guys. I feel like even you and I were like rushing through this, even though we just got done talking about it yesterday. But it's so exciting because yesterday we found out that BAM! Legion is the next expansion for World of Warcraft. That logo is gorgeous. They did a great job on the logo. I really, really like it.
Yeah, and the one-word expansion is interesting. There's no funny acronyms this time. It's just going to be Legion.
Oh, you aren't going to call it World of Warcraft Leg?
No, yeah, Wowhead's beta site will not be leg.wowhead.com.
Come on, it should. That'd be so funny.
I don't know. I think we might get people interested in, like, socks or stockings or websites.
It could be a whole thing. It could be a whole theme of socks. You're onto something here, Perk. You're onto something. But I'm super, super excited for Legion. We found out yesterday that the level cap is going to be 110, that the level 90 boost is going to be changed to level 100. There's a whole new continent. There was a really cool, like, cinematic bridge that was, like, the most intense cinematic of all time for only being 15 seconds long.
I know, it was so cool. The lore behind that is so interesting because basically we're back in the main timeline and Gul'dan has found Illidan sealed up in the prison that the Night Elf Wardens have put for all the threats of Azeroth, and in the cinematic you see him with his, you know, torch and he's lumbering towards something in the distance, and then you see Illidan encased in this prison and his silhouette and the weapons, and
I
so cool.
really regret not recording yours and my reaction to when that went down.
Yeah.
Because it was literally like Perk and me watching, and we're like so fangirly and like freaking out, and I'm like, is that Illidan? Perk, is that Illidan? She's like, I don't know, I think so, I think it's Illidan. I'm like, I think it was Illidan too! And we're like completely freaking out and like... It was ridiculous. It was so fun though, and you know, I've heard so many different things that people have said now, like, how could Gul'dan think this was a good idea? Because isn't like, didn't Illidan become Illidan because he had Gul'dan's skull?
Yeah, but I mean, Gul'dan's trying to get everyone in Draenor to drink some very green, smelly liquids. So
yeah, ew. I just like, he's so evil looking. Like, if you ever doubted that Gul'dan was like a good guy or a bad guy, when you see him in like a cinematic like that, and he's just like his beady little orc eyes and his gross teeth, and he's cackling while unleashing a very powerful demon hunter on the world. Like, he's just a bad dude, man. Like, he's like chaos. He just some men just want to watch the world burn.
With green fire.
With green fire, with foul fire, exactly. Yeah. We also got, of course, the whole presentation on Legion, which was done by Tom Chilton, Ian Hazacostas, and Alex,
Afraziabi, and J. Allen Brack. So,
thanks.
There.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I was like, don't make me do it, Perk. Don't make me do it. And we said before, but it was a lot longer than I think everybody expected. I don't think it was just me and Perk, but I think everybody was kind of like, wait, they're still talking?
I think at the press-only conference, the fan sites in attendance claimed that at the very end, when they went through all the Blizzard games, Tom Chilton said that there was no Warcraft news at the press conference, but tomorrow there would be a cinematic and several videos, and we're like, okay, maybe we'll see a video of his own, or I don't know, a new race or a new class, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
There was a lot more than that.
So many things. It was very, very exciting. One of the things that they didn't discuss at the panel, but Perk and I... We're super
very
proud
excited
of this. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Well, we interviewed, if you guys remember, Ian Hazacostas a while back. And being the people that we are, we were like, so what about that transmog system that you talked about like 3 years ago? Is that still on the back burner? And Ian was like, it's not on the back burner. It's on the front burner. Active development. Yeah. And then we saw yesterday on the box on the, you know, the
features next to buy the box. Yeah.
One of the things said new transmog system coming. So I'm pretty sure we're getting Diablo 3 transmog in Legion. That's right.
I would love to see some pictures. I mean, maybe that will be what we see on Sunday. I hope so, because it's just a pretty major thing to just, you know, stick on the Legion website and just not follow up on.
I'm super, super excited about it because, like, bag space has become such a problem. Like, it's at the point where it's not just my entire void storage is full. My entire bank is full. And my bags, I usually only have like 10 to 15 slots open. Like, I can't go get transmog gear anymore because I'm out of space. Like, I have nowhere to put it.
Yep, same.
And I don't want to delete things, especially things that were like some things I'm holding on to in case they ever change their mind about transmog. Like, one of the things that I think of all the time is the Vile Fumigator's mask. Super cool in-game item.
Yeah, or, you know, silly items. Or
like the rabbit
I really
ears.
like the starting items that you can't transmog because they're just common quality. Like, the Worgen gear is really pretty, and you can't do anything with that, so
I save things in case they ever decide to let me transmog them. But that also puts me in this position where I'm just like, well, I'll just use transmog I already have because I don't have space. So I'm super, super excited. I hope that they don't, like, change their mind. Please don't change your mind.
Yeah, I mean, another thing they didn't mention that they were talking about improved social features, so...
Yeah, what is that?
I have no idea what that is. I mean, at least with transmog, I'm like, okay, we've got transmog in game, but...
I hope it's a pure offline.
Maybe Sunday.
I hope it's a pure offline. That's a feature that is... like, a lot of online gaming things are missing, because sometimes you just don't want to have to, like, deal with someone whispering you and be like, hey, will you come, like, heal this alt raid? And you're like, I don't want to do that at all. I don't need any gear. But you can't say no. Just want to appear offline. That would be really nice. Or maybe it'll stop turning my mature language filter on every time I restart the game. That would be great, too. Yeah. But, of course, one of the most exciting things that we learned at the Legion conference or panel, whatever you want to call it, presentation, was the new class, the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, I am super excited about this. I guessed about this on the stream a little bit yesterday, but... you know, my character in all the screenshots for Wowhead has the Demon Hunter transmog, and all of our art on Twitter has its, you know, Perk's face with blindfold, so I'm super excited about rerolling. So I wrote this guide to all the information we got about the Demon Hunters, and I just want to talk about it.
Sure.
I'm taking
you take the stage. You take the stage.
So, Blizzard actually made a website for Demon Hunters, and we learned that only Night Elves and Blood Elves can be Demon Hunters, so that's pretty limiting, but it does make sense if you go back into the lore and how Night Elves mainly became that because they wanted to fight the threat of the Burning Legion and how that destroyed some of the Night Elf areas. You know, it's like fight fire with fire, use their corrupted fell magic to better seek them out and fight them. So a lot of people have been asking us about the races, and yep, that's on Blizzard's website. It's right there. Only 2 so far. They are leather users, and there are 2 specs, Havoc, which is for DPS, and Vengeance, which is for tanking. I know some people are concerned that there's a lot of melee classes, but they said that being leather and melee fit the feel of the Demon Hunter more than something like mail and ranged. They are a hero class, so they're not starting at level 1. They've got a really cool Death Knight Death Knight-esque starting area, the Vault of the Wardens, because they've been imprisoned, and they're going to start over level 90. The level isn't 100% certain yet, but maybe 95, 100. So I am really excited about all of that. And something that we're both excited about are the cool customizations. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and show off the cool slide?
Yeah, the slide is awesome. The customizations for Demon Hunters are ridiculous. Like, everything is customizable. You can customize their face, their little, like, mask. You can also wear something sort of like a veil, which I don't think they show any of them here, but you can customize the horns. You can have no horns if you want. There's also, you can customize the tattoos. You can customize the skin to be all different colors or smooth or scaly. I think you can choose whether you want, like, kind of that green felly stuff coming through your skin. There's just a lot of customizations. You're not ever going to confuse a Demon Hunter for any other class when you just look at them, which I think is really neat. They also have a metamorphosis, which is super cool, and it's not pictured here, but they have hooves and wings. They're super cool.
I mean, I love all the customization because we've gotten hints of Demon Hunter lore in the game throughout the expansions, and the guide I go into some of the Demon Hunter NPCs in a little more detail, but they took all those little details and incorporated them into the character customization. For example, as you become a better Demon Hunter and go through your training, you become more corrupted and take on demonic characteristics, and in the character customization you can, you know, there's scars on some of the examples, there's a bunch of scales, your feet can look pretty demonic, they're blind because like they bind a demon as they burn their eyes out, and that gives them special sight, so you get all this cool looking eyewear that you can use.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited that all the little hints about demon hunters we've gotten throughout the past 10 years are all showing up.
Do you know what you're excited about?
Yeah.
Do you know what you're excited about, Perk? That demon hunters will use Warglaives.
Yes,
that's what you're
I'm
excited
also very
about.
excited about that. So they revealed in an interview today that the unique weapon demon hunters get are glaives, and they have that distinctive silhouette. They're on the back. It's something for both weapon slots.
Wait! Look!
Yeah. Oh! I know it's
Bam!
coming. You are prepared.
Basically a demon hunter. I'm basically a demon hunter. Are you
just
kidding
not
me?
a blindfold because we wouldn't see the show notes and you wouldn't be able to see the camera.
If I took my glasses off, I would need a demon to be bound to me in order to see, I promise.
But yeah, to get into a little bit of the lore again with the Vault of the Wardens, it's a pretty cool place. Basically, it's meant to be like you've been in prison for 10 years and your experience has this flashback where you're an elite demon hunter as part of the Illidari under Illidan, and Illidan sends you on this basically suicide mission, and you sort of see how that plays out, and then in the present time, it's meant to teach you like what demon hunters have learned about, sacrificing things for the method of combat. And they've gotten woken up because they want the demon hunters to fight the Burning Legion, because we've got this huge Legion threat that's coming, so that's why the Wardens feel that they could be useful. And the Vault of the Wardens is actually pretty cool because you return there later on as a dungeon, I believe. So I'm curious, like obviously that this place is like a pretty major thing if you're going back and trying to, I don't know, purge it, or there's like an even scarier threat that's in there.
They showed like a little preview of a demon hunter like doing his double jump and stuff, and you know what the area looked like to me is Netherstorm.
Yeah.
In like Burning
Crusade.
Crusade.
Yeah, another thing. They get double jump. Very important. Because they're very agile, they get double jump.
Yeah, it looks super cool. A lot of people are like beyond. It was funny because I raided last night because we raid on Thursdays, and I think our raid leader said about 5 times, like, you guys cannot talk about the expansion, you need to focus. And every time we do anything, we'd be like, oh, when we're all demon hunters, we're just going to double jump over this. He's like, will you stop? Will you please stop?
Yeah, jumping games are now much easier with double jump.
So, you know what else is exciting, though, is the artifact weapon system. Super cool. Yeah. I, like, really want to see the Resto Shaman weapons so bad. It's, like, they haven't really, like, they said that enhancement shamans are going to get Doomhammer, but they didn't really say that that was every shaman. They specifically said enhancement shamans. So I'm wondering what they're going to give, like, elemental and resto shamans, because they generally would use, like, a staff or a shield and, like, a mace or something like that. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. But, because
we did learn, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I was just...
Yeah, so I mean, like, basically, it's important. It's not like, oh, all shaman maybe will get this, because they specifically said that every spec has a unique weapon, and there's going to be 36 in total. We've already got 34, and then plus 2 for demon hunters. Yeah. So
many. It's like so exciting and weird and so different, but I don't know. It's like something I'm really, really looking forward to. All of the weapons are major lore weapons too. So there's Ashbringer and Doomhammer and Frostmourne like reforged, and it looks
I am really excited about Ashbringer and Doomhammer because, like, well, what happened to Tyrion Fordring? Like, what happened to Thrall? Like, why do we have their weapons?
You know what?
That's going to be interesting to figure out.
I bet Demon Hunters will start at 100 because they said that Demon Hunters will use a unique weapon, which is Warglaives. So it's safe to assume that they'll get their artifact. And they said you would get your artifact at level 100 because you have to, like, level it up and work on it so much.
Right.
So I bet they start at level 100. But I'm super, super, super excited for the whole situation. I hope I get a cool weapon. I hope I get a cool weapon. Now, artifact weapons have a talent tree progression, which is obviously very different than anything that we have in the game right now. So anything that you do in game that's meaningful, whether it's a BG or a dungeon or a raid or anything that would give you, like, experience, will also give you artifact power, and you can spend that artifact power on talents within your artifact weapon to make it stronger and more powerful, but in a way that you see fit. And as you can see, it kind of, like, everything is connected. So once you do one, like, 2 other paths will open and you can make those choices, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty preliminary, but in some of the interviews they clarified that right now, if you get enough artifact power, you could fill everything out, and they're trying to figure out if you can, like, choose your own path through it, or if there's gonna be a set path. But yeah, the idea is that, like, you won't have to pick and choose and be like, well, I can only get this one thing, and that means I can't get something else.
Yeah.
So that should reduce some stress as well. Like, if you do enough stuff, you just get everything.
Well, I kind of like the idea that if you, I hope that if you are allowed to unlock everything, that it's something that only, like, you know, like, people who are rating Mythic and people that are spending a significant amount of time online can do, because I really do like the difference between, like, when you can just tell that someone has put a lot more time in. I think that time is what should really get you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they were also, besides the traits that you unlock, there's also visual progression.
Yeah,
and
that's the cool part.
Yeah, it's really cool because if you get enough artifact power as your weapon progresses, you can unlock sort of like a master skin variation of it that's like the weapon but has more details. And then based on different activities you do, you can unlock more appearances as well as tints. So you can feel unique. Yeah. You
can transmog them though too, correct? Like, haven't they said that you would be able to transmog them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of confusion because we heard in an interview that they may be considering artifacts becoming legendary at some point, and currently
like
you
maybe
can't
when
transmog
you unlock
legendaries.
Everything. Oh,
but
yeah,
I mean,
so
maybe they just meant that, like,
they're legendary.
They're
quality,
not really legendaries,
like, they're basically legendaries. Yeah. Legendaries, TM.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, if they talk about the transmog system, I'm sure people will be like, "Well, great, I have this system, but I can't transmog my weapon. What's up?" So I'm sure they'll explain that more. But it seems that I don't know. I understand it as, at least right now, the artifact weapon you get at the start can be transmogged, and they don't know if the artifact weapon is doing other cool stuff in the future, but you can transmog the artifact weapon, but it is meant to look really cool.
Yeah, so hopefully people won't want to. That would be great. And then what's cool too is that a big gripe about transmog and cool gear for literally since the beginning of time has been that feral druids and guardian druids don't get to benefit from that. But with the artifact weapon, they will. As you can see, they get different armor on their shoulders and claws. They have, like, spectrally forms. This is just 2 examples. They did say that there would be several choices. If I had to guess, there would be 6, because that's how many there are of everything else, with multiple tints for each one. They also did say that the druids would be getting new HD cat models as well.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And so one of the cool things that they were showing was that survival hunters were getting a spear, and it had a sort of a cool Tauren background. And that made a lot of people speculate because, there's been all the jokes that hunters roll on melee weapons and they try to do damage with a spear, and they confirmed today that, they're going to be a melee class with a pet, so that is pretty cool.
Yeah,
and the weapon has a cool backstory too.
I think it's surprising though. I mean, just coming from, like, somebody I read a few times a week, and it's very surprising to me that they would kind of essentially add 2 new melee classes to the game when, like, almost every raid fight in the world is not melee friendly. So I feel just really bad for raid leaders around the world right now. Everybody is going to roll a demon hunter. They're not going to have any classes but demon hunters and melee hunters. Like, it's just a raid of melee hunters. So I think it's really funny, but I think it's neat. I would have really loved to see somebody else been able to use a bow or a gun, because I feel like right now hunters have 3 weapons that they can exclusively use and no one else can use, which is kind of strange to me.
Yeah, it's sort of like Paladin Intellect.
Although,
it's like, played Intellect. It's like, well. I mean, it got better when they changed stats.
Yeah.
But before, like, the stat change in Worlds, it's like, Intellect played for the one holy Paladin.
For the one
no one else can use this.
Yeah, I'm excited for Demon Hunters. I really am, and they look so fun and so cool. But I'm surprised that we would get another tank spec, because you only need, like, 2 tanks in a raid, and you need, like, 4 or more 5 healers, or 6 healers, and now we have more options for tank classes than we do for healers. I thought it was kind of weird, but that's okay.
Going back to the artifacts for a second, though, something which they said was cool was that it's not just grinding out artifact power to get your upgrades. There's also these cool legendary-esque quest lines that have been added for each spec. Awesome. So it's like the Frost Death Knights go to the base of Icecrown Citadel to gather the shattered remains of Frostmourne, and then that's works into how they get their weapon. And Ret Paladins apparently go to the beach where there's been a lot of death, and they try to look through the bodies and find the victims, and that's where they find Ashbringer. So I'm really worried about Tyrion Fordring if they're finding Ashbringer among a pile of dead bodies.
Well, I was concerned too because they mentioned that shamans would have to go to the Maelstrom in order to get Doomhammer, but like, where's Thrall?
Yeah, throw this up, take my Doomhammer.
Like,
I resigned from Orgrimmar, you can have my weapon too.
Is he depressed? Did he throw himself into the Maelstrom? Like, what happened there? And I think that the class quest being at, like, high level is a really good idea, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but back in my day, there were class quests for almost everything. Like, Shaman's Water Totem quest was the worst quest in the entire world. Like, I don't care what in the world that you think your class had to deal with, Water Totem was the worst one. But they took all those out of the game because it was kind of just a discouraging factor for lower level characters or new players who hadn't experienced anything like that yet. But I really like that they're adding these class quests back in, and they are all very lore intensive to your class and your spec. And I think that's interesting and could get people a lot more into the story. Yeah, it
reminds me of, like, Fangs of the Father or Taragosa. Yeah. And it ties into sort of the class orders that we'll get to in a little bit, how they really want you to feel pride in your class and have that class have an identity. They gave the example that, you can be working towards a common goal, but it makes more sense that you're working with your class because your class has special powers and resources that another class wouldn't have. So like a warlock would approach a threat in a very different way than a holy paladin would.
For sure. I really like it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I like how much investment they're putting in every individual class and people kind of having that pride in the class that they play again. And I don't know, this might be another expansion where they're kind of shying away from alts, but that's okay as long as it's fun. I don't really care as long as it's fun.
And at least you'll have a good weapon even if you're an alt. You're like, oh, well, I hit this level, I got my boost, I have this awesome thing. Yeah. That I don't have to worry about getting quest or bad dungeon drop.
Yeah, yes and no, though, because if they're saying that there are no other weapons except for artifact weapons, that would imply that everybody's getting an artifact weapon, which would put a lot of stock in how much artifact power that you've, put into that artifact to make it better. Yeah. So, like, yes, you'll have an artifact, but that artifact could be, the equivalent of a green when it first starts out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll try to work out some mechanisms to where you're not going to be rewarded if you play 24 hours straight and
what? But that's how I want to be rewarded. Don't give them ideas like this, Perk.
What about if you played for 100 hours straight?
I'll do it.
Yeah, no, I'm also going to interrupt this for a second that there was a really cool Blizzard item that just went up that Warcraft tweeted about, apparently. And there are these canvas wall hangs for every expansion. And they look really cool. Oh. They're like cool canvas prints.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to look at it as soon as we're done. I don't have any way of showing them on stream, unfortunately, without stopping the stream. But we were just talking a minute ago about how we're concerned about Tyrion and we are concerned about Thrall. But there's actually a lot of lore figures we haven't seen in a while that are very popular that will be in the Legion expansion. A lot of them have like new armor and new models like Sylvanas and Greymane, and Anduin is all grown up. If that's what you want to call it. We also heard that Alleria and Tyrelon are going to be returning. I was going to say recording. Jesus. I'm losing it.
That would be an interesting show.
Yeah.
Be on the stream.
Like behind the camera. And Sylvanas has a really dramatic sounding biography, so she could be a very major player in this expansion. And Perk and I are hoping for a Windrunner sister reunion.
Yeah, the Sylvanas description was really interesting because, well, first of all, it's neat that Greymane and Sylvanas were present because the Worgen Silverpine Forest area had a lot of lore back in Cataclysm, but you couldn't actually, if you weren't a Worgen, you couldn't really do stuff in Gilneas, and that conflict has just sort of been at a standstill for quite a few years. So it seems that maybe we'll get some advancement on that story. And they were talking about Sylvanas having to make a sacrifice and what to live for her people, and we've heard the term sacrifice a lot for demon hunters already, and they were talking about her Valkyr, and it just sounded like she's got something pretty major in store, and if she has things going on and Alleria is returning, that just makes me hope for a reunion.
Yeah, that would be really cool. People love Sylvanas. People have wanted a Sylvanas.
Yeah.
Theme in the expansion since, we haven't seen her since, what, Cataclysm?
Yeah, basically. Like, so. I think she had some minor parts I think if you read the lore books, that she, you know, shows up and has opinions about Siege of Orgrimmar, stuff like that, but not a super major player.
Yeah. Now, we probably should have talked about class orders when we talked about artifacts, but that's okay. Class orders sound amazing. I really like the idea of this. A lot of people have been asking for, like, guild housing for a while, and part of this almost reminds me of, rather than guild housing, like class housing. And I like this for a lot of reasons, because you're going to be able to see a bunch of different people from your class. You're going to see how they itemize and how they're enchanting, and you're going to have, like, a bunch of people to talk to who do the same things you do, and that's really, really fun. And it's also going to be where you do all your artifact-y type stuff.
Yeah, I like how you bond with your class from a lore perspective, but you can also just bond with people because you're seeing other people that are doing what you're doing. You can be like, oh, this person has an artifact weapon that's way more advanced than mine. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me ask them a question. I'm sure they'll know because they obviously play the same class I do.
Yeah, I think it sets a really good, I don't know, a place where people can become better players. You know, like a low pressure environment, you know, because people love to talk about their class. Like, I don't know, I love talking to other shamans, whether they're, you know, elemental or resto, because I play those specs. I think it's really interesting to hear what other people do and how they build, and I think most people feel that way about their class. So I think it's going to be super fun. It's like the houses in Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the actual, you know, hall in which these are held, they look really cool. They're a private space that are shared with your class in neutral areas, and that they gave 3 examples which were really cool. So paladins have this like Templar sanctuary underneath Lightsoap Chapel, and shaman have a cave in the Maelstrom. And warlocks, like, they're antisocial and they don't like hanging out in cities, so they have a little hideout on a Legion portal somewhere. And that all sounds cool. I'm really curious to see what the other ones are. I think rogues are going to be Ravenhold, and monks, I mean, monks could be like Peak of Sanctuary, but
Didn't they
I'm
say,
not sure about the
they
other
said
ones.
the monk weapon was where Emperor Shaohao was.
Yeah, that was the last, the weapon of the last emperor was the monk weapon.
I think it's cool, too, because a big complaint with Warlords of Draenor was, oh, I never leave my garrison, there's no point in doing anything, I'm upset, you know, and they're doing this thing where, you know, well, oh, even if you only have time to go run one dungeon, it's meaningful because you get artifact power, and oh, like, you're not going to be in your garrison, you're going to be in this shared space with a bunch of other people that do the same things you do, and it's going to be out in the world and not all over. And then you're also getting Dalaran, which is like this neutral faction hub that everybody loved. So I just feel like they took so many things that people didn't like about Warlords of Draenor and did their best to put fixes in the next expansion for those complaints.
Yeah, we should touch on Dalaran just for a little moment longer, because everyone's like, oh, Burning Crusade, throwbacks, Illidan, and Demon Hunters, but you know, Dalaran was awesome in Wrath of the Lich King. It was a neutral city. There was always things going on. You know, the first guild on the server would have the monuments placed. You could pick up your daily quest. It just was really like a very social hub, and the Kirin Tor
like
are
the
involved.
fishing daily that was right there by the bank, and you could just fish in the fountain, and like
you could like PvP in the shady area below. So Khadgar is now in charge of the Kirin Tor, and he's a major player in this expansion. So the Kirin Tor are now involved, and Northrend is also going to be used as a major capital city again. And in weird mage speculation news, apparently Karazhan, which we saw in the trailer, is, I can't say what it's doing, but that might be an important location too. There was like a raven and you could see the castle. Yeah,
you could see, I mean, they panned right in on Karazhan right in the beginning. I am still on the Khadgar is Medivh hype train. You cannot derail me, okay? Because I'm telling you, like, Khadgar is not a raven. That is Medivh. Like, you know, I'm just saying Aegwynn.
I mean, that could make sense because they said that Jaina left, and Jaina wasn't happy when she left the Kirin Tor, so I don't know I mean, they were very vague about Jaina, but it would be interesting if Jaina thought that something was up with Khadgar, no one believed her, and then she left.
Yeah.
That's still not. And then, you know, maybe at the end we defeat Medivh, and then Jaina takes her rightful place again. And
screw you guys, I'm going home. Jaina 2015. But I'm telling you, I think it's Medivh. I think it's Medivh. Everybody is like, Danielle, you're crazy. Panzer, please. But I'm telling you, something ain't right going on there. And Medivh's like place was Kara. Like, he was all about Kara. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think he's Medivh.
exactly.
I think he's Medivh. Also, back to class order halls just for a second. We've been talking the last couple weeks, speculating on how they would reuse Garrison tech, because they obviously put so much into it. It would be very strange if they just poof, never do anything with Garrisons again. And in your class hall, you will have champions. That's what they're called, right? Champions.
Champions, not followers.
Yeah, not followers, because you're not an army, you're not a commander, but you'll have champions that will do things for you, and there will be fewer of them. They'll be more meaningful, and it seemed pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I went back and listened to the interview again, and they were saying that it's not just, they're not followers who do things for you, that, you know, they can help you with things, but it's more like they enable you to do things. So like, you know, you might find a cave or something because of them, or they just sort of seem to make your life easier in the background. So that could be an interesting twist as well. And they said that this isn't about getting all the followers to fight Traynor. This is about having, you know, numbers won't help because the Legion outnumbers you. This is just about trying to intelligently do things to work together. So it makes more sense that your champion is someone that's like propping you up as a hero and making your life easier, instead of being like, oh, I just went out and I did the raid for you, here's your box.
Oh, thanks for the box, man. Appreciate it. You know what else I was excited about is when we saw this whole announcement and we watched the presentation, that they said that dungeons would be meaningful again, because dungeons are stupid in Warlords of Draenor.
I would love to learn more about that. I mean, they did discuss 9 in the presentation, but Warlords did have 8, and I'm just curious if they think that more dungeons is how they'll be meaningful, or different types of reward systems or whatnot. So maybe on Sunday they'll talk a little bit more about why they'll be meaningful.
Well, I would like to think, because we're seeing so much thrown back to Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, and a lot of people are like, oh, like Siege of Orgrimmar was too long, that expansion was too long, we need faster expansions, but if you look, like, Wrath of the Lich King was a super long expansion. ICC was 12 months. Like, we were there for a long time, and I don't think it's necessarily about the length of the raid or the length of the expansion. It's about the quality of the content they're putting out, and I think there was a big replayability factor to a lot of what was in Wrath of the Lich King, which made it so popular, with the dailies to go do dungeons, and you had, like, all this interesting stuff in Dalaran, and ICC was an awesome raid. Ulduar was an awesome raid.
And there was dungeons that kept coming out that were tied to all the raids.
Yes.
So, you know, Icecrown, for example, had the storyline, and Sylvanas and Jaina went through you with that, and then ICC had the jousting thing, and I didn't like jousting, but it still, it made sense. You had all the Alliance and Horde leaders watching you in the dungeon that you did in the raid.
Yeah, and they had Trial of the Grand Crusader, had or Calling of the Grand Crusader, had the Trial of the Crusader dungeon that came out with it. I really liked when they did stuff like that. And
Ulduar had the 2 Halls of Lightning and Stone that they came out at launch, but you know, they tied into the Ulduar's lore, and Ulduar was the second raid of Warlords of Wrath. It would be awesome if Ulduar was around again. I loved Ulduar.
Please! Everybody loved Ulduar. Everybody really likes... I mean, Ulduar is kind of like a throwback to sort of like Titan-type lore, and I think people love learning about the old gods and the Titans and these really ancient powers, which is, I think, why everybody's so hype about Legion, because we've heard Sargeras come up a few times, and we're like, girl, we gotta fight him! And you're like, no, you're never gonna fight him. You're never gonna fight him. He is too powerful. But you never know, and it's interesting to hear about, like, we're gonna have to, like, talk to the Titans to get them to help us, and, you know, the pillars of the Titans, and I don't know, it's just interesting. It's just fun stuff, and I think that they've done a lot of looking back at what was popular in other expansions and why it was popular. And I think a big reason that ICC or Wrath of the Lich King was as popular as it was because there was so much replayability, and a lot of that was in dungeons. I did dungeons every day in Wrath of the Lich King. Every day I did my 2-day race.
Yeah, I did a lot of dungeons too.
I haven't done dungeons the way I did dungeons in Wrath of the Lich King since then.
Yeah, I mean, especially the Garrison just sort of gutted the level 630 rewards being any sort of useful.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's dive into some of the actual dungeons.
No.
So, we love dungeons. Let's not talk about them. So the Eye of Ashara does exist. It's not the expansion, but it is a dungeon. Yep. And you're dealing with Ashara's handmaidens and the Naga in there, because Ashara is involved with one of the pillars, and that's not good news.
Not good news.
speaking of Dalaran, Violet Hold makes a return.
I'm excited about that.
Because Dalaran can be a traveling city and you're going to the Broken Isles, the Violet Hold is now closer to the Tomb of Sargeras, and that makes it do weird, strange things. And we've been promised that when we go back into the Violet Hold, which was originally a Dalaran prison, we'll learn some more about Dalaran's history and, dramatically, maybe even about the world itself. So there's probably some very scary thing in the basement of Violet Hold. And yeah, as I mentioned before, there's a Vault of the Wardens. The Demon Hunters are familiar because it's the starting area, but basically the Vault is an area where when the Titans were created, it used to be an area where they where they imprisoned all of the scary things, and then when one of the Titans got corrupted, they sort of blew up the prison, and then they unleashed all the sort of negativity and the demons that became the Burning Legion, and then the Wardens now use it as their prison again. So that's going to be really interesting, I think, especially if you're a demon hunter and you've already had to go through that for the starting area.
Yeah. There's just so much cool stuff. Like everybody liked the Valkyr in Northrend, and the Hall of Valor is going to talk about and deal with that lore. There's also
there's just one more thing about Halls of Valor. They're talking about Valhalla being an inspiration for it, and it's not like the corrupted undead Valkyr lore, but it's more the pure shield mating lore of Northrend. Yeah. And I think, I joked about this on Twitter, but with Valhalla and the references, it references some of the concepts that's also in Mad Max, and it's just like, I live, I die, I battle, res again. And there were jokes like, oh man, you could totally have cool dungeon items named after that and references there. So that would be really funny if the last boss, if you died, he's yelling mediocre at you. And all
pop
those,
culture. Yeah, I'm calling it just because you don't want me to. I'm just excited about the raids. I'm sorry. I almost cut you off to talk about the raids because can you believe the Emerald Nightmare is a raid? Can you deal with it? Because I'm
so excited. Yeah.
I can't deal with it. It's super exciting. I mean, everybody's wanted the Emerald Dream for so long, and we're going to have the first raid of the expansion, 7 bosses in the Emerald Nightmare.
It's super cool because there's a dungeon that's paired with it.
Yeah.
And in that dungeon, you sort of burrow through the thicket, and in the raid, you climb up into the tree, and then you actually go from your reality into the Emerald Dream, but it's corrupted, so that's why it's the Nightmare, and that sounds very cool. And you meet up with demigods and Ysera, and I'm very excited about this because
awesome.
I've always killing green dragons in Manila, you're always like, what's behind the portal?
Yeah.
And then we can actually go behind the portal.
I know, it's going to be, it's just something that everybody's wanted for so long, so it's really exciting. And it's also kind of exciting that it's the first raid, because you're going to get to experience it right off the bat. You won't really have to wait, which is exciting. And then Suramar Palace was also announced that as a 10 boss raid, and it's so different than what I would have expected it to look like. It's so pretty.
Yeah, they made a joke. They're like, oh, well, Gul'dan's here, so you might think it might have spikes and fell, but you'll be disappointed because it's the antithesis of that. It's meant to be very royal elven and look very different. And it has really cool lore because apparently Suramar was this new, well, not new, but it's a different type of elf that we haven't really interacted with, and they were very big on magic, and they now have this deal with the Burning Legion, and there's the Night Well, which is all corrupted, and Gul'dan is the final boss, and it's got this Black Temple setup where you enter in through sort of the underground and the sewers, because you can't just march into this awesome city, and then you work your way through finally getting up to Gul'dan and the well, and it sounds super exciting.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I love that we're gonna fight Gul'dan in this beautiful place. It makes no sense. I love it so much. I'm so excited. I'm so sick of orcs. I have seen enough orcs. No more orcs. Ban orcs.
I know. It was so refreshing. I was a little worried at the start because they had a cinematic talking about what happened in Worlds of Draenor. I'm like, oh, is this gonna set it up for more orcs?
Please, no more orcs.
Yeah, but yeah, they did. It was. I was pleasantly surprised that the other cinematics did not really focus on orcs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was gonna say something about Suramar. Oh yeah, similar to how we were talking about how Wrath had dungeons that were paired along with it. Suramar also has a dungeon that's paired, and it's cool because it was a really flourishing city, so you actually get to see things like houses and how people actually lived in Suramar. I would love it if it was like Culling of Stratholme, where you could just actually wander around the city and buy things from people in one area.
Oh, yeah.
That would be very cool.
That would be cool. I would like that. So aside from the dungeons and the raids and the demon hunters and the class housing and the artifacts, we also learned that there are going to be some major overhauls to the PvP honor system that are sort of reminiscent of the way that titles worked in vanilla, but like kind of better.
Yeah, kind of like that. So there's been 2 variations right now, and the 3rd variation of this is that, good news, PvP talents are now separate from PvE. So yay, class balance, that's awesome. Basically, how it is that there are honor ranks 1 to 50, and they unlock these unique PvP bonuses and talents. And when you hit 50, you can turn that honor rank in to gain a prestige level, and then you can grind back up to 50 and repeat the process, or you can just stay there and keep your, basic abilities and whatnot. And prestige levels are very important because they're adding all these cosmetic items to PvP, and you can get things such as unique mounts, or even a unique artifact variation. So pretty much every spec is going to have one variation and, probably some colors that are only available if you keep doing this honor rank 1 to 50 grind, turn it in, do it again, etc.
Yeah, and they're cool too. I like the idea of prestige in general too, because you don't have to, it's all about playing, not about winning. And I know that sounds really silly, but as someone who is awful at PvP, like so incredibly bad at PvP, like I'm never going to get the rewards that require an X ranking, ever. I'm just, like, right. I can admit it. I have the stones to admit it. But I love the idea that prestige just has to do with how many honor kills you're getting and like how much you're actually playing, because you can PvP in your spare time, which will rank up your artifact weapon, and then you can work towards things like these cosmetic mounts and these little they have like little badges that are on your name,
yeah, little portraits thing.
Little portraits that are on your name, and then you can get these cool weapons that you're only going to get if you've prestiged a couple times. And prestige also adds, for people that are really into skill and being so good, every time that you prestige, it resets your talents, so you're kind of playing at a disadvantage, which is just all the more reason to prove how great you are, because if you're really, really good, like, you shouldn't need those talents, bro. So it seems really fun. Like, I've never really been interested in PvPing, because outside of, like, I like to PvP at low levels because it's really fun, but, like, once it gets serious, I don't want to, like, ruin it for my team. But the announcements that they made yesterday made me very interested in doing some PvP and prestiging and stuff like that. It seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've been dipping back into Astron, and it's like, well, I'm not doing rated stuff, and Astron does have some issues, but it is kind of nice just to sort of grind things out and see progress towards the Nemesis quest with the Gladiator Sanctum. Like, it feels like I have a purpose. I'm not just throwing honorable kills into a void, and it feels like with this system, I'll always have something to work towards. Even if Battleground is really bad, I'll be getting kills, I'll be gaining, ranks, I'm working towards something all the time. Yeah.
Yep, so I'm pretty excited about it, even though I feel bad for anybody who's on my team. Sorry, guys. So I think, do you have anything else you want to talk about regarding yesterday's
I mean, just conference? A general shout out that we have been doing a ton of Gamescom news. We have a general Gamescom article that has highlights of all the games and when live blogs are on each day. So you can check that out. We have a really extensive live blog with all these high-definition images and videos and details from the expansion announcement yesterday. Serene did a great job live blogging that. My coworker, Ashilia, did all these great social media updates, so follow Wowhead on Twitter if you want to see more of that. And we have separate guides for the Demon Hunter class, and right after we finish the show, I'm putting up one on artifact weapons and all the revealed weapons that we have, all of that good stuff. And yeah, we are just trying to cover all the news we can get. We are obviously not at Gamescom, but we're trying to keep an eye out for any, interviews and videos or cool pictures people post of, the Warcraft movie, stuff like that. Just trying to round that up so people in the US feel that they're looped into things.
Yeah, and since we're shamelessly self-promoting, I did a video on Legion if you want to watch it, youtube.com/TreyChat.
And that's in the live blog post as well, towards the top.
Aw, thanks, Berg. So anyway, some stuff is still going on in the 6.2.1 PTR, which of course is 6.2 point flying, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
We talked a little about mercenary mode, not last week, but the week before. Mercenary mode will allow you to PvP as the opposing faction in a very clever disguise, and you'll gain all the regular rewards like you would as if you were playing as your own faction. It's meant to help with queue times on really imbalanced servers. And previously, we knew it was a thing, but it wasn't available for testing, and it is available for testing now. Now you can queue up as for Ashran or for unrated BGs, but not for rated BGs, which is probably for the best. And your race is determined by whatever race you are now. So
in your class combo.
So that's exciting. I think it's gonna be fun. The mercenary NPCs are named after real life Blizzard recruiters, which is pretty clever.
Yeah, they were really excited when I found out. They're like, "Oh my god, we're in game. We made it. We're famous."
Look, Mom.
So that was pretty cool.
And then, unrelated to mercenary mode, they added a deserter buff to Ashran, so you can't just leave. You have to stay for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, if you don't do that, it's like a tour of Ashran. They're like, oh, you have to explore the zone. You're on a tour of duty, and if you leave before 10 minutes, you get a 15-minute deserter debuff.
You're a big jerk is what you are.
One more interesting thing about mercenary mode is that so there are some transmog items that are only faction specific, and if you switch to the opposite faction, your transmog changes too, and I found that cool. So, like, for example, if you have an Alliance PvP robe and it's blue and gold with a lion, you're not gonna have that blue and golden lion robe when you go to the Horde version. It's gonna change to, red and black and spikes.
Because you have to fit in.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Now, aside from the PTR, we also, of course, got Blizzard's Q2 earnings for 2015, which, I don't know, this kind of stuff isn't always fun to talk about. And
yeah, maybe we should have done it at the start so we could. Yeah.
Well, no, we're still gonna end on a good note. We have something to talk about after this.
We still have something cute. Yeah.
But I'm sure everybody kind of knows this by now. I don't think we're breaking any news. But of course, at the end of Q1, WoW was at 7.1 million subscribers, and at the end of Q2, WoW was at 5.6 million subscribers. And what's kind of crazy to hear about that is that a lot of people are saying that patch 6.2 is credited as stabilizing the loss. Meaning that, like...
Yeah, that was in the presentation.
Yeah, it, like, was gonna... They were anticipating it being lower than that, or maybe it was lower than that, and it came back up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and the presentation also described 6.2 as one of the largest non-expansion content patches, which... I mean, like, I think it's debatable. I mean, there was a raid. It looks really cool. There was Tanaan Jungle. There were some new reputations. There was the Shipyard. I mean, I think that the Shipyard has issues, but they were trying to do something new with the garrison, whether it worked out.
You know, I'm pretty well known in the community for being a shameless fangirl. I try to be incredibly positive about things, but I think it's reaching saying that it was like, what if the largest content packs ever? Like, oh, I don't know. Like when ICC came out, there were 3 dungeons that dropped epics along with ICC, like that, and that's I don't know. I
mean, maybe there's a lot of background tech, like, you know, the tech to have the weekend bonus events, or something that seems really simple that we don't know about. But yeah, I mean, also do keep in mind that this was for investors. Like, we care about it because we're players, but a lot of the language was not really geared towards us. For example, Merrill Lynch was asking about player habits, who plays more on like what region, and how they deal with the ebb and flow of subs. And Blizzard was saying that they couldn't really delve into player habits in the call, but they hope things like faster expansions and the Warcraft movie will keep players hooked. And, you know, if we were players, you know, we always ask with interviews stuff like, you know, hey, like, what do you see being popular? You know, are you happy with the amount of people doing LFR? Like, are you going to nerf this fight because a lot of people are saying it's hard on heroic? You know, and they respond to us saying that they're going to make changes or they want more participation in something, but because this was an investors call, they didn't really get into that sort of thing.
I find it very odd, though. Like, I understand the Warcraft movie. Points for the Warcraft movie. But I do find it very, very odd that they would say, oh, well, we hope that faster expansions will keep people hooked. Because, again, look at Burning Crusade, look at Wrath of the Lich King. Those were the 2 most popular expansions. Wrath of the Lich King was a long expansion. It had a long raid. It's not about time. It's about content and the quality of the content.
Yeah, this was just me speculating, but they were saying that Warlords got 3 million people to bounce back. And maybe they're thinking that in the current day, if, you know, different types of people playing whatever, that an expansion is a lot of hype that will get people to submit versus, like, here's a mid-patch that has ICC. I mean, I still agree with what you're saying, and that things like 6.1 not really being meaty at all were not good to keep people hooked.
But Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King were 7 years ago-ish, give or take. If you're talking about players who, say, quit after Wrath of the Lich King, and they were 20 years old, like, they're 27 now. They're pushing 30 now. I think it's a strange thought process to be like, well, we need to get these players back, when, like, their lives have changed so drastically between then and now. I think it would be more beneficial to, you know, target the people who either quit very recently or people who are new to the game, rather than trying to dig up. I mean, I am obviously excited.
Yeah, I think they also just mean,
but, like,
that if
how
you're new,
long are they gonna stay, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, they might nostalgia hype train, like, oh god, we have to subscribe, like they did for Warlords, but then, like, the reality that they're not 17 years old anymore kicks in, and that they need to go do their job, and that their life changed, and that's the real reason why they quit.
Yeah.
So
or in general, though, I think advertising for expansions is better for, like, just marketing hype and more widespread hype. Like, I don't think marketing would say, let's put a taxi in Times Square for patch with a gore howl in it for patch 6.2.
Yeah.
But if they have, you know, fewer patches and things are faster, and, you know, things are just broadcast like, you know, expansion, you know, something's new, you know, hook these new players in, do something crazy, that's better for a budget than doing a patch that is going to have not as much widespread.
It's not going to have an impact,
you know,
outside of the
hype.
People in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I'm excited to see that, because the marketing for Warlords of Draenor was so cool.
Yeah.
Like you said, they had the taxi in Times Square that was destroyed by a gore howl. Like, that's so neat. And they had the commercial during the Super Bowl. Like, that was super cool.
Yeah.
And we're going to have, like, the Warcraft movie. And, like, no, I'm hype. I hope that my intense emotion there for a second didn't still hype.
No,
so
I just think that, you know, they're trying to do more expansions to be smarter with marketing as opposed to doing longer things. Like, I think that they want to have more regular content, but they want to do it in a way that sort of raises the volume. All
you know
the
what they've done wrong in marketing is they haven't had Chuck Norris or William Shatner do a commercial in 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, like those commercials were good. The Mountain Dew thing was good. Wasn't that in the middle of Wrath, like the red battle stuff? And, like, I mean, there could be more cool mid things in the expansion that tie into other products. I think that would be cool too.
Yep, they did a cool Coca-Cola promotion, but it wasn't in America. It was in China, where you got, like, the little polar bear.
Polar bear. Yes, I want a polar bear.
Yes, please, more stuff like that. I'll buy your stupid stuff if I get something in World of Warcraft. Like, I'll buy some really dumb stuff if I get something in World of Warcraft out of it. So hopefully they'll do more stuff like that. And I totally agree, because I really do like seeing, like, those marketing campaigns. Like, just as a fan of the game, when you see World of Warcraft on TV, you're like, ooh, I'd play that. I'm in on the thing. So I do agree in that sense, but I'm not necessarily... I think that will bring in new players or maybe bring players back, but I don't think it's what keeps players hooked.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I was saying, stuff like 6.1 was not keeping players hooked, especially players that were used to beefier X.1, you know, patches like Landfall, for example.
I still hold firm that if they had just delayed Highmaul, or if they had just delayed Blackrock Foundry and put it in 6.1, people wouldn't have had nearly the problem with 6.1 that they did.
Yeah, just like the illusion of, okay, this patch is going to have new content and it's coming now, versus here's a bunch of bug fixes and a few assorted items, and maybe, or even just call it like 6.0 point whatever, because it was just confusing, because we've always gotten a trailer and a logo for every 0.1 patch, and we didn't this time.
Yeah.
So it just set up expectations, and maybe people didn't realize that in advance. Maybe they just thought from a technical perspective it made sense in the data to call it 0.1, but from player expectations, people just expect, you know, like Landfall was like, we got a new zone and quest and Brawlers Guild and some other things I think I'm totally forgetting. But yeah, I mean, just that stuff alone was pretty big.
Yeah, and I almost feel like it was intended for Blackrock Foundry to be in 6.1 and then 6.1, because it was so many bug fixes. They couldn't make it happen at the same time, so rather than delaying the raid, they pushed the raid out early. So it's weird, because players were really upset about the lack of content, but they would have also been upset if the raid got delayed to make the patch seem a meteor too. So it's kind of like, I feel like a rock and a hard place situation, but I would have really appreciated appreciate it if there was maybe a dungeon along with the raid or a scenario. What happened to scenarios?
Yeah,
what happened to scenarios?
Exactly. Something I really liked in patch 5.3 was that it didn't have a ton of content, but they decided that they needed to move the story forward, so they made that special Battlefield Barons event, and you could get the cool rewards tied to the rebellion in Orgrimmar. And actually, Orgrimmar had changes, like the trolls were exiled, there were guards everywhere.
Yeah.
And you know, it wasn't a huge thing, but they tried to do a little bit of interest, so it wasn't just, oh, here's a bunch of bug fixes. So
yeah.
I think something like that would be cool if they, you know, maybe there was like some NPCs or activity outside Caragor, you know, not, hey, it's suddenly a city, but just, you know, like some little things out there in the world.
No, I'm totally with you. I think that was the number one issue with Warlords of Draenor, is that, like, there was very little to get you out in the world. Even the Tanaan Jungle. I enjoyed the Tanaan Jungle, but as soon as I got revered, I haven't really gone back. Because I got so many rewards on my path to getting revered that, like, there was not a lot of incentive to go back once you've gotten your achievement for flying.
Yeah, earlier this week, actually, I wrote a guide to things that you should be looking forward to in Draenor when you have flying, and a lot of them were things from past expansions, such as archaeology is easier, you can fly between battle pets faster, you can camp where it spawns, but there wasn't a lot of things like, oh, you know, you can go to this, you know, cool place and check something out. It wasn't a lot of Draenor-specific content besides, you know, finishing up the treasures you didn't get along the way to Draenor Pathfinder and stuff like that.
Yeah, I am excited to go do that kind of stuff, though, to be honest. Like, that's been a lot of what's kept me from treasure hunting, is like, oh, well, I know I'm going to be able to fly soon, so yeah, not going to do this right now. And I might even go back and finish up some of the quest lines that I didn't finish, because I did do all of the Lore Master stuff, but there's still a lot of, like, side stuff that I didn't do.
Yeah, there's a little,
And just being able to fly and the convenience of that makes it more like, oh, well, it's not going to take as long kind of thing. Or even, like, they had that world boss that was way down in Spires of Iraq. Nobody did Rookmar.
He'll be easier to get.
Nobody. I feel like maybe people will actually do Rookmar again. I mean, he drops a flying mount.
Yeah.
He drops a flying mount.
Yeah. His mount will actually look awesome now.
Like,
that was just so weird how the Solar Spirehawk looks awesome, but looks a little funny on the ground.
Yeah, he's just hopping around and doing whatever. So I'm hoping to see more people out in the world and just, like, doing stuff. And hopefully, I would really like it if they would add Fellblood to places outside Tanaan with flying as well, just because, again, more incentive to go out and herb. Like, I really hope that they never do anything like the herb garden in the mine ever again.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice if Fellblight was in more places, just because if everyone has flying and everyone is now in Tanaan, like, sniping their nodes
it's gonna be awful.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm really glad that we didn't see, I mean, we haven't heard anything about professions yet, but when we had originally heard about Warlords of Draenor, and you heard, like, oh, we're gonna be able to, like, farm in your garrison, it's gonna be great, and it wasn't farming, it was, like, actual herbs. It's like, that is the incentive to leave your garrison.
Yeah.
Like, that's why people don't leave their garrison, because you put all of the gathering professions in the garrison.
Yeah, and the other professions were super simplified too, so I feel like professions were very vibrant if you like them, and they got very simplified, and there's hints that there's profession changes coming.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't mention any, but some of the
garrisons, there'll be profession changes.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's obviously, I mean, I assume there's going to be a new rank of professions, like there always are, and it's like, well, how does the garrison fit in out it all? Like, can you craft new things at level 1 that are non-garrison related? You know, just, you know, a bunch of questions tied to that. So maybe that'll be on Sunday. I don't know, but it sounds very cool.
I just hope gathering profession, because that was a big, I mean, it's funny because you hear all these things like, oh, well, we did Tanaan to, like, get people out in the world, but that really doesn't solve the problem, because then they're only going to Tanaan.
Like, yeah. And also just the other professions too. You know, like, if you don't have leatherworking, you can make leatherworking, or if you are a leather worker, you can only wear 3 pieces of that gear. And there aren't a lot of, you know, weird vanity things on the side, and you can also craft them at level 1, so there's no, you don't really feel attached to your profession, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it's similar to the class thing. Like, you know, you don't, they're trying to make you feel hyped about your class and that they have an identity and unique abilities.
Yeah.
But with profession's like, oh, you know, whatever, I'm just a level 1, I got my garrison due to craft this for me.
Yeah, I built an engineering hut, got all the pets, destroyed the engineering hut, made an enchanting hut, did my weapons, destroyed the enchanting hut.
Yeah, it's just like you don't really have any identity to the professions in Warlords. And like, you know, engineers like Goblin and Gnome and all this lore, and like, I'm always an engineer, I'm the person with the bombs, and now it's just like, whatever. Like, yeah, I don't even have to be an engineer to craft it.
Yeah, it's just, I agree with you completely. I'm really excited because all the changes that they've announced so far really, really give across the message that we might not have seen player feedback nearly as implemented in Warlords of Draenor as many people would have liked, but it does seem like they took that player feedback and implemented it into the next expansion, which I am okay with.
Yeah. One more expansion comment that we should say is that, you know, all the stuff that we're reporting on, we're trying to gather as much information as we can, but, you know, beta is not playable yet. Obviously, everything is subject to change. So if you're coming across this in 6 months and you're like, why isn't this in there? Like, they lied. Like, we're just... Things are changing. We're just reporting on the sort of like the first event.
Yeah, I did a video about garrisons right after BlizzCon last year. Oh my god.
Oh boy.
It's so inaccurate. It's not even funny. Like, I did an entire...
in any zone, and they look cool and customizable.
I did that. I talked about garrisons being in every zone. The other one I love is that I talked about how, like, if you failed a mission, you had to go save your guy. Why didn't they leave that in?
Yeah. I would have bonded with the person.
Well, not only that, but that gets incentive to leave your garrison. It's like if he dies in some dungeon, you have to go do the dungeon to retrieve your follower. Blizzard, please. That was a great idea, and they took it out. They also said you'd be able to breed battle pets. I want to breed my battle pets. I want to. Well, that sounds gross, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
That actually ties into our new the thing we're going to talk about right now.
It does. I've been so excited for this for a while. So every week, of course, Blizzard now does these weekend holiday events, which is actually something I really look forward to every week because it changes every week. They're all different things, except for Arena. Except for Arena, because I'm really bad at Arena. But this week is the Pet Battle event, which is super exciting. You're going to get a special buff called the Sign of the Critter, which will give you an additional 200% pet battle experience gained by pets, not gained by the player, which is really nice if you're trying to level pets up to 25. You're also going to get a special quest, which is the best thing ever because it's called The Very Best.
Yep.
So amazing. So amazing. I'm just going to walk around pet battling and be like, I want to be the very best. And if you win 5 PvP battles, which is this very best quest, you'll get an ultimate battle training stone, which automatically levels one of your characters, one of your battle pets up to level 25. So you can go and do this on all your alts and just get 3 or 4 or however many instant level 25s.
Yeah. It can be overwhelming to decide what pet to use it on, so we have a guide to pets you want to use it on, depending on what your pet play style is. Like, if you're just sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing, we have a pet recommendation, but if you're looking to get a certain pet achievement done, you might want to use a different type of pet. And
like an awfully
PvP,
big adventure.
I know like the word PvP is scary to people, but
no, people are terrible. You'll be fine. Like it's not.
It's like it's very anonymous. You just sort of like queue up. It's nothing to do with PvP gear.
Yeah.
It's just like your pets against another team. And
I like seeing other people's transmog gear too. Like when you PvP against someone, you see both players on the screen. So I like being able to like see people's transmog gear and stuff. I think it's neat, and you get ported all over the world and. It's fun, and lots of people are totally garbage, too. Especially if you're not PvP battling with level 25 pets. Like, if you PvP with, like, say, a 10, a 9, and a 12 or something, you'll be fine. You'll be fine, I promise. And it's super exciting. Wowhead has tons of guides, like she said, but I'm telling you, level up Chrominius. He's so good. You can also track your pet collection in Wowhead's profiler, so that's pretty neat, too.
Yeah, you just go to wowhead.com/list, and you enter in your username and your realm, and then the profiler pops up with tabs for everything you've collected in your gear, and the Battle Pet tab shows you what pets you have that are already level 25 in green, what pets you have that aren't level 25 in yellow, and then what pets you simply don't have at all. And if you have multiple of a pet, it will show you all the different breeds you have for that pet and how far along each one is leveled.
I'm looking at mine right now.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool, and just to elaborate on some of the guides, we have lots of users write guides like the Celestial Tournament or dailies, but today for the pet event, we wrote a guide to the basics because we figured that there are people that are brand new, so it's like, how do I find a pet? How do I level a pet? What do I spend the stone on? Like, how do I even get the ability to train battle pets? So we have all of that. And just to circle back to the garrison again, the menagerie is great to have for this event because there are battles that you can use. There are pet charms you can earn, and you can buy cute pets and like pet biscuits for your pets there. So yeah, I think also in the comments I read that the experience pet charms stack with the sign of the critter buff, so that's pretty neat.
So update, I have 638 unique pets. 81 of them are level 25. And still no life to be found. It's cool the way the Wowhead shows it, because it shows all of your non-max level pets in yellow and all of your max level pets in green, and then it splits them up by type of pet. So you can see like which ones would, like I apparently only have 5 level 25 critters. I should work on that.
Yeah, you can use your stone on a critter.
Or magic. I only have 4 magics. I have a lot of humanoids though, 12 humanoids. I know you guys care. Yeah. You guys care so much.
And another cool thing about the Wowhead Profiler is that there's a little filter option at the top right of the tool, and if you click on that, you can filter out different things such as, oh, I'm never going to collect trading card pets or pets from Blizzard Collector's Editions because I don't like spending money on things. I'll just say don't count them, and they'll just be hidden forever so I don't have to stare at my bar being incomplete.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, the Wowhead profile is useful for a lot of things too. Like if you ever like get stuck on like a quest chain and you can't figure out like if you've completed it or not, you can view all of your quests and stuff like that. It's funny because one time, did I ever tell you about this perk? I got I dropped a quest and I couldn't find the guy to pick it back up because he was one of those NPCs that could be in a lot of different places. And I put in a ticket and I was like, I think I lost this NPC, and they responded and they're like, you should go to wowhead.com/profiler and then you can just look up the quest and where that exact NPC will spawn. And I was like, can't you just tell me though?
Yeah, it's like, can you look me up on Wowhead?
No, they totally told me to go look it up on Wowhead, which I thought was pretty great. So yeah, that's our show. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, it was a long show, but we have a lot of stuff, and we have even more.
It was a long show.
Yeah, well, Legion hype, you know.
Legion hype, awesome. And don't forget, guys,
there's so many people. That's
I know.
Awesome.
I don't know where everybody keeps coming from, but you guys, if you're watching, if you're interested, on Sunday after the Big Blizzard panel at Gamescom, we'll be live streaming our analysis and discussion and reactions and whatnot. Do you know about what time that'll be, Perk? I feel like I have to get up early.
Yeah, hold on. I want to say it's either 8 or 9 Pacific time. So
I think it's 8 because the other one was 9. So I think it's 8 Pacific time, which would be 11 Eastern time, if that's helpful for you guys. That's when.
Well, I mean, it's after.
Yeah, so that's when the Blizzard panel starts. And we'll be live as soon as it's over so that we can talk about it, and maybe if you guys have any questions, we can answer them. That would be great. Does anybody have any questions about Legion or anything that we talked about today? Because we'd be happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, if there's anything you think that, you know, you want us to do any Legion coverage on something, or, you know, pull out all the details and stick it into a guide, we can totally do that. There's just like information coming everywhere.
We got a question that says, does the new weapon system mean that there will not be weapon drops in dungeons and raids? That is what we are apt to believe right now, that post level 100 you'll have your artifact weapon and that there will not be weapon drops in the new raids or new dungeons.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's all subject to change, but I believe that was asked in one of the interviews, and they clarified that. So it makes sense. Like, you know, that sort of takes out some of the angst about, do I need to get this weapon to drop in a raid, and I'm now behind people and all that stuff.
I heard, this is so great, will there be a Legion version of Pepe? I heard he's the leader of the Burning Legion. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope we get Pepe's original costumes. Like, Pepe's got a lot of costume catching to keep up on.
I know. Somebody asked me about my shirt. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's actually kind of cool because the back is the crest of the Horde. I don't know. Could you see it?
Yeah.
Could you see it? I'm not flexible. I actually got this from a friend of mine who worked at Blizzard, so I'm not sure if it's available or if it's something that you can buy in the Blizzard store, maybe from Jinx. It's a cool shirt though.
Someone is asking if the free 90 boost will auto upgrade to 100. Yes, it does. If you go onto the Legion website and you go down to the feature bullet points at the end, they specifically say that. So, yeah, and if it's anything like Warlords, they'll be doing the boost in advance, so you can take advantage of that in Warlords. I don't know if they'll do that the same thing this year, but it seemed pretty successful back then. If you pre-order, you would get the boost.
Someone asked, where is Madan and why isn't he even mentioned? I think it's because we didn't really hear much about Garona, and that would have been a necessary progression to that story. So I don't know where Medan is.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Legion webpage again, and they have an area where you can click on these 10 lore figures and learn more, and I don't believe he's there.
Yeah, even. Garona isn't there either, though. But in order for Medan to have a storyline, they would have to explain, like, Garona and Medivh. So I'm just guessing that, I don't know, a lot of people think he's really, 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 really overpowered. So they might have just decided that he's the Sargeras of orcs. Of orc
Someone
hybrids.
Is asking, do you feel like every spec will be changed for it to have a unique type of weapon for that spec? Maybe like sub-fist weapon only for rogue or something? I'm not sure. I mean, I think some classes currently work better than others. I mean, all specs are having weapons regardless. And if you look at the preview, you know, for example, it seems like some specs are having the same weapon, some are different, like a Frost Mage has a staff, while Fire Mages have a dagger. You know, for Frost Death Knights, they seem to have 2 one-handers. Another spec on the website has a 2-hander. So, you know, we'll see. I don't think they'll introduce all these different weapon types, so there are 36 different types of weapons, but I do think they want each spec to have, like, a certain flavor associated with them. You know, they said that Frost Death Knights go to Ice Crown, but not, they didn't say anything about Unholy Death Knights.
I definitely think that they're going to be different, though, because if you think about it, they've announced, like, oh, well, Hunters, like, one specific set is going to get this spear, but nobody else is. So, like, I definitely think that every single spec will have, maybe 2 different specs of rogues might both have daggers, but I think they'll be different daggers.
Yeah, they'll probably be used in very different ways. Like, you know, Survival still has a pet, but they're melee, and, you know, Beast Mastery is sort of the exact opposite, and Marksman is just all about the weapons, so they are trying to make them be a bit different. Someone's asking if we'll introduce other missing characters that are connected to them, like Kalia Menethil, if Valeria and Sylvanas are coming back. I think that there's going to be some surprises. I think it's interesting that they didn't talk about what the final boss of the expansion was, and I think at past Games Comms they tried to they let that slip too early. So I think there's definitely room for more shocking things coming, since they haven't been talking as much about the entire storyline right now.
Yeah, I think that's good, though. I think that the focus, instead of looking too far into the future, the focus on what we're actually going to get at launch as opposed to what we're going to get a year after launch is not a bad thing. Someone asked earlier if we knew about if they were going to redo Moonkin forms, and we certainly haven't gotten any sort of... They didn't talk about it, but...
Yeah, just Feral Druids.
Yeah, I would like to think that if they're redoing Feral and possibly Guardian, that maybe it would be a consideration.
Yeah. Someone is saying, what does Karazhan have to do with the Burning Legion? How come Khadgar could see them coming from the Tomb of Sargeras?
Because he's Medivh!
Yeah. Everything was tinfoil hat. I mean, it could also be, maybe that's... So the Kirin Tor is playing a major role. There's Dalaran and, you know, Karazhan. It makes sense if there's going to be an emphasis on mages that Karazhan would also have a major role if they're digging back from past expansions. So yeah, I'm excited to learn more about that.
Karazhan was a popular raid too, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, is there anything else? Have you two picked your Demon Hunter names? I'm not sure, because I think I want Perk to reroll, but I also like the name Perk, and I'm attached to my old character, so it's like, what do I rename the old character to? But we have time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably be really boring. All my characters are Panzer something. Like, my Shaman is Panzer Shock. My Paladin is Panzer Din. My Druid is Panzer Hoof because she's Tauren. So it'll probably be really boring, like, I don't know, like Panzer Dan, like Illidan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Someone is saying, will we face Gul'dan or actually kill Gul'dan? They seem to be picking their words carefully. I think in the live presentation they said Gul'dan is the final boss. You know, he slipped away last time, but, you know, this is it. Like, you were killing Gul'dan.
Yeah, so and that's not in the final raid. That's in the second raid.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of Blackrock Foundry raid.
Perkadan, exactly. Perkadan. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I saw a bunch of people in trade chat talking about all the different names that they were saving, and someone was selling a name for 100,000 gold, and I was like, that's really reaching. And it wasn't even that good of a name.
Yeah. 2 questions quickly.
Chillidan. Sorry, that was the name. Was Chillidan.
Someone was asking about what Doomhammer's offhand was, and they said that
something about pure energy.
Like a ball of pure energy. They didn't actually show it,
which is weird for enhancement because they usually dual wield. So it's weird that they would, unless the energy like looked like Doomhammer, so it was like an energy replica of Doomhammer.
Yeah, that could work. Someone else was saying, when can we play the beta? At the end of the talk, they briefly said that
beta this year.
Yeah, later this year ideally, and you can opt in for the beta currently under your account settings. So, yeah, no further details beyond that. For Warlords of Draenor, we got alpha information that could be data mined for a few months before the beta, and we haven't gotten to that phase yet. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think the beta will start next week.
No.
Yeah.
No, hopefully we will get like a. I really, I know we're on the Legion hype train. I really want an Overwatch beta date. Let me shoot people.
Maybe we'll know stuff tomorrow.
Maybe.
Here's the presentation.
I know. Well, that is about it for today. This was a very long show. We do this every Friday. If you guys like to watch it, please follow us or subscribe to us. Subscribing, of course, supports the show. So does subscribing to Wowhead Premium, which takes all the ads off of Wowhead and gives you like special privileges on the website and stuff like that. Thank you to everybody who does that. We do this show every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It usually lasts about an hour, and we talk about everything that goes on in World of Warcraft and updates on Wowhead and whatnot. And that's all the things.
That's about it. Yeah, I see a lot of people asking questions in the chat, and we've really gone over, but if you drop them in the post where the VOD will be up tomorrow, we'll try to answer some of them and answer them next week or on YouTube comments. So don't feel bad. We're doing a lot of stuff, and maybe some of the questions will be answered on our live show on Sunday.
Yeah, I upload the VOD of this on YouTube. It takes a couple hours to get it up on YouTube, but once it's up, I try to keep an eye on the comment section for about a day or two. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them on the YouTube VOD, and we will do our best to answer them. And I hope you guys all have a great day. We'll be back next week.
Legion hype.
Bye.